I'm Rick Harp. This is your APTN News Brief for Friday, January 26th. The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs has shared details from a report on the potential search of a Winnipeg-area landfill, believed to contain the remains of 3 Indigenous women. Sent to all 3 levels of government, the report is not yet public. It's said to outline first steps for a search of the Prairie Green landfill north of the city, including a 50,000 square foot facility. The report says the search could take as little as 6 months. Grand Chief Kathy Merrick says AMC would expect to be the recipient of any provincial or federal funds for a search. Melissa Robinson represents the family of the late Morgan Harris, who feel a search could take place this summer.
Morgan is going to come home. We are going to lay her to rest. That is a promise that's been made, and we will. Now I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I believe that, we will start the work this year, by this summer.
Yesterday marked Day 9 of the Saskatchewan inquest into the 2022 mass stabbings on and near James Smith Cree Nation. Taking the stand, pathologists who spoke to the exact cause of death for 6 of the victims. With more, Rachel May.
It was a heavy day as Dr. Derek Musgrove, a forensic pathologist with Saskatchewan Coroner Service, took the stand. He testified in the chronological order of each victim's passing, starting with Damien Sanderson. Miles Sanderson, the lone killer in the attacks, and Damien were brothers. Toxicology showed that Damien tested positive for substances including methamphetamine, cocaine, alcohol, marijuana, and 1 prescription medication. Other victims we heard about today were Gregory Burns, Christian Head, Lana Head, Bonnie Burns, and Lydia Gloria Burns. We're expected to hear about the remaining victims' cause of death. Rachel May, APTN, National News, Melfort, Saskatchewan.
Still in that province, a judge has found a Mountie guilty of manslaughter in the shooting death of his lover. Veteran officer 55-year-old Bernie Herman had pled not guilty to first-degree murder in the death of Braden Herman, no relation. Back in 2021, the man's body was found in a park on the outskirts of Prince Albert. It was argued the retired Mountie lured Braden to the isolated area in order to kill him. The Big Stone Cree Nation in northern Alberta has declared a state of emergency. Citing an increase in mental health and addiction issues, Chief Andy Alluck has called for extra funding, and he's asked all levels of government to support his nation's plans to deal with those issues, which are more and more common across the country.
Mental health and addictions is the common area of concern that is affecting our on-reserve nation members, and we are developing short, medium, and long-term plans that will take some time, but we also need external supports and funding.
I'm Kathleen Martins, a reporter with APTN News. Homeless, houseless, shelterless people, they aren't hard to find in Winnipeg. They're on the sidewalks, in bus shelters, and down alleyways. They're living in tents and squatting in empty buildings. They're even sleeping in abandoned cars. But who are they? Hear their stories in my new 5-part podcast called Our Relatives. Listen on your favorite player.
To northern Ontario, where it's believed arson was behind an early morning fire Wednesday, which destroyed the only school at Iabmutung First Nation. Now a pair of minors, ages 14 and 17, have been taken into custody by the Anishinaabe Aski Police Service. About 300 students attend the kindergarten to grade 9 school. Local NDP MPP Sol Mamakwa has long advocated for better community fire services across Northern First Nations. He says without sufficient firefighting capacity, community members can only watch as key infrastructure is destroyed.
I think fire safety, fire suppression, and fire training, and then not only that, they get to ensure that they have the proper infrastructure to be able to deal with a building like that. It's not there. And I think, for a whole school to, burn down to the ground, that is a very difficult loss.
Returning to Manitoba, where the provincial Liberal Party has called for a boost in funding for foster parents, Sav Jonesa reports.
The allowances for foster parents in Manitoba needs to be reviewed, says Manitoba Liberal Party interim leader Cindy Lamoureux.
Here in Manitoba, we have been in a CFS crisis for well over a decade. Every political party, no matter who is in government, has said this.
She's calling on the current provincial government to consider raising the rate paid to foster parents to keep up with the rising cost of living. a rate that hasn't increased in many years.
In recent years, other provinces have improved conditions by amending basic maintenance rates. These maintenance rates go towards food, clothing, transportation, and healthcare, and many more things. Yet they have been frozen for over a decade.
According to the Manitoba Liberal Party, foster parents in Manitoba receive between $8,000 to $10,000 a year to care for a child. They point to a 2023 Statistics Canada report that says the average cost of raising a child is $17,000 a year, around twice as much. Manitoba Foster Parent Association President Jamie Fow says the freeze impacts the well-being of the children in care.
With our service fees not increasing in over 2 decades and basic maintenance rates not increasing in over a decade, Manitoba is having a difficult time finding appropriate placements for the children who have been apprehended by this province.
Manitoba currently has over 10,000 children in care, and roughly 90% are Indigenous. Despite that, Fow says she received no training on how to care for Indigenous children in a culturally sensitive way.
Manitoba is one of the only jurisdictions in the world that doesn't require a pre-service training program. Our neighbors to the east and west of us do require pre-service training. This would be the perfect time to provide ample education about the realities of the 60 scoop, the millennial scoop that is currently taking place. And it would be a great way for foster parents to understand the context. Unfortunately, in Manitoba, we do not have that.
Lamoureux says she will call for an emergency debate on the issue when session returns in March. Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
And that's your APTN News Brief for Friday, January 26th. I'm Rick Hart.